twist. Still alive! What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Plot Twist. Still alive! God, I'm so dramatic. I am your hostess with the mostest, 3-time cancer survivor and chaos coordinator, Crystal. Welcome back. I'm so glad you guys came. So today, we are getting back into the hard shit, the heavy shit, the big plot twists of life. And we are going to talk about something every single person does and has to deal with, and that is grief and the loss of loved ones. So today I have a very special guest with me. She is somebody that has been a ride or die since I was born. I've known her my entire life. She's been there through not one, not two, but all 3 cancer diagnoses for me. She is a beautiful, incredible woman. Oh my gosh, she's crying right now. Honey, she is my auntie. Say hello, auntie.
Hello.
Oh my gosh, no. And I need everybody's help. So this beautiful bitch, which she loves.
Love that.
When I call her that, because we have that kind of relationship. She just turned 78 years old. She is still hot as hell. She is a gilf. If you're her son listening, don't listen. But basically that means a grandmother I'd like to wow chicka wow wow, except it's incest if it was me. So you know what I'm saying for like other people. One thing I didn't get to do is sing happy birthday to you. And you love Cher, right?
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
I do.
So I'm going to do my best Cher impression. Happy birthday, because I fumbled the fucking ball. You were dealing with a lot. I didn't want to overwhelm you, and I wanted to let you deal with that. But here we go. So,
oh, happy birthday to you. Oh, happy little birthday to you. Oh, if I could turn back time, you still look 60 years old. Oh. Happy little birthday to you. Oh.
happy birthday.
Well, thank you.
I did the little tongue thing, and
It's better to hear it on my birthday than when you're going in for surgery singing it down the hallway.
oh my God. Okay, when I'm on drugs. I think I talked about that in my first episode, which you haven't listened to yet, so you'll get to hear a little bit. That one I didn't sing though. That was like the second or third surgery. But anyhow, I'm really grateful for you being here. Why'd you get all choked up in the beginning?
Oh, no. I just feel overwhelmed.
Yeah. Well, I think you and I just mean so much to each other.
Yes.
And you've really inspired me. You're such a strong, beautiful woman. I've watched you go through so many things. And I think the reason I wanted to talk about grief with you specifically is because you do it with such grace and care and compassion. And I don't think many people could handle it the way that you do. And a shit ton of humor, which is, as you know, the whole fucking point of this podcast, and also my favorite coping mechanism. So you and I really relate on that level, even sometimes being inappropriate. Mm-hmm. But I also think most people think those things or make those jokes. They maybe just don't say them out loud. And so I just want to talk about grief, what that process looks like, how you have dealt with it, because you've experienced quite a bit in your 78 years, even though you look 60. And I think we should kind of start where the most important person in your life that you lost first. So
My mother.
Tell me a little bit about your mom and basically what happened.
Well, my mother had lung cancer, and it was really sudden. It wasn't like a long illness. It was 8 weeks.
What year was this?
She died in January the 5th, 1995. I was in my 40s.
How old was she?
She was 69.
Oh, yeah, she was.
Yeah. I said, perfect. But
see what I mean? We're already doing it.
My mom was a mess. I mean, she was very strong. We kept her at home. She was always so worried about my brother. Oh, Bubby's so upset. Oh, look, he's crying. And so I told her one day, I'd heard just about enough of that. I said, Mom, well, I care. I mean, I'm upset too. She goes, oh, Sharon Les, you're fine. You're strong. You'll be okay. So that kind of set the pace of how I was going to deal with her, you know. But,
well, she was right. I mean, you are, again, one of the strongest women I've ever met.
I didn't know what I was doing. It's the first time I'd ever dealt with something like that. And I just started And, you know, my dad was so in love with my mother that when he found out that she was dying, he took it really, really hard. And all of a sudden, this man that I thought was so strong, I realized was going to fall apart at the seams. So I had to start organizing things, which kept me busy. I made sure that she had meals delivered. I made sure that someone came in so my dad could have a nap during the day. Men aren't as strong as women.
I mean, we might have some male listeners, and I think when it comes to this type of thing, especially with their spouse, because they don't know how to deal with their emotions, and women, we do. Men want to compartmentalize and just shove it in a box, and women, we're like, we can cry, but we're still going to get up and do what we need to do. And I think we both have strengths and weaknesses, but I have seen a lot more men crack. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
There's nothing wrong with crying. But back then, especially generationally, men never cried.
No, never.
So to see your dad fall apart, who
Yeah.
had been, you know, a military person and somebody who had lived through really hard shit, to have him crack and fall apart, that's a big deal.
That I think that was harder on me than losing my mother, because my mother had always been strong, but I always had this idea about my dad, and to see that, you know, I had to kind of put the pieces back together to where he was comfortable so he could sit and hold my mother's hand, because she had a cowbell.
What?
And when that cowbell went off, Dad had to get up and run in there.
So she was like more cowbell, baby, ding ding for you guys.
She would ring that cowbell, and Dad would have to get up and go in there, and he'd say, well, what can I do for you? And she said, I just wanted to see what you were doing. You know, I was ready to take that cowbell and shove it out the window, but I didn't. Dad goes, now leave it alone, honey.
What were some of the feelings that you were feeling, though, while you were doing those things?
To tell you the truth, I just felt like I wanted to remember how she smelled. I wanted to remember her voice. My mother had a beautiful voice.
You do too.
And thank you.
Yeah, we just talked about this before we started when we were doing our practice.
And, you know, it was like little things I wanted to remember. But basically, I was just trying to keep everybody together. I didn't really have time to sit and grieve. And then my mother, of course, we were raised in the church, and she started seeing angels, and, you know, she had a baby angel that would flip-flop in the room, and she would just be laughing, and I'd say, Mother, what's so funny? Oh, isn't he cute? And my dad didn't quite know how to deal with that. I just went along with it.
You just played along?
Oh, I just played along, you know. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I slept in her room, which was, of course, my old bedroom, and she would talk about heaven, about the colors, how beautiful, vibrant the colors were, and that it hurt her eyes to look at it. And she had an angel that would sit at the end of her bed that gave her comfort, and she said, you know, I'm not afraid anymore. She would go, Sharon, look, and I'd say, Mom, I don't really see what you're seeing. And then she'd tell me to shut up. And so I know I would just lay there and listen to her talk.
Did that give you comfort
Yes.
to have her talk about heaven and the angels?
Absolutely, because not everybody tells the same lie. I mean, that you can't make that up.
No,
you know?
I've seen so many people afraid on their
Yes.
deathbed because working in nursing, but also people that I've loved and I've watched pass away, and they are scared, or they're not seeing anything, and they're worried about what's going to happen next, or their loved ones. They're so anxious or in pain. So I feel like that is such a beautiful gift that she kind of gave you. And I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
It renewed my faith. I mean, my faith became stronger. But little did I know I was going to need that down the road. You know, because of my mother, I got out of a bad marriage that I never had the courage to do.
I'm so proud of you for that, by the way. And you know, I don't know if I've told you this enough, and I think we should do an episode about this too. You inspired me to leave bad relationships because I saw you do it after X amount of years, after kids were grown already. That takes so much strength and like intestinal fortitude. And you are literally the reason that I did that. I hope you fucking know that. And so I'm glad that that's what inspired you.
I'm glad, because I would never encourage anybody to stay in a bad situation as long as I did. And I could name 1,000 different reasons why I did it, and they all seem validated at the time. But losing my mother gave me the courage to stand up for myself and say no more.
Well, I think it makes everyone look at their lives and realize it's going to end. Like when we are born, no matter what, we are all going to leave this world at some point. None of us are getting out of here alive. And whenever you lose someone you love like that, and 8 weeks is not a long period of time, especially when it's like someone you're very close to and you look up to, it is life altering. And I don't feel like you ever go back. Losing people changes you. I think people look at grief and they're like, oh, there's the stages of grief and all of that. And they're like, when are you going to, I've heard this before when people are like, well, when are they going to get over that? And I'm like, you never do.
No.
Grief is not linear. It's not just, oh, once you go through the steps, some days with grief, it feels like it just happened. And you feel like that your heart is ripped out of your chest again. No matter how much you loved that person, like nobody's ever going to be that person again.
No.
I'm glad that your experience, the first experience, though it had to be traumatic for you, was also really, it sounds beautiful.
You know, it really was. And, you know, I felt like I handled it really well, except for one day I had to come back to New Braunfels because I still had to hold down a job. So I'd work all day and come home and be up half the night with my mother. But I had to stop and get gas one evening. I'll never forget this. There was this gentleman that kept staring at me, and I realized I could feel the sympathy coming off of him. It just radiated. And I thought, I must really look like hell because I felt it. I felt like I had the world on my shoulders. And I remember that I could feel that he wanted to come over and say something to me. But I thought to myself, if he does, I don't know if I would recover. This poor man would have been having to hold me up. Well, he didn't approach me. But through the years, I've thought, I bet he has thought of me through the years thinking, I wonder really what was wrong with her.
It's funny you say that because I'm very much the same way. I'm like, let me just get through this. And if you, even specifically physical touch, if you hug me, I'll fall into a fucking million pieces. And I can't. When you are the person that's the caregiver or the one that has to be, quote, the strong one, the one that people look to, or even just like a mother and you're working and doing all those things during grief, because life doesn't go on pause. You still have to do all of that while you're dealing with it. In that situation specifically, your grieving starts before they die. You're grieving them as it's going. Yeah. Like you said, it prepared you for other loss in your life. You experience one really hard thing. You're like, oh my God, this was the hardest thing I've ever endured. And then life's like, sit down and watch. And you get the next hard thing comes along. So
yeah, be real careful what you test God on. Don't ever say, I can't do it again. Don't give it to me. Please, Lord, I just, because God will give it to you. So never say never.
Whether it's God, the universe, and I know your faith is very strong, and I'm a believer as well. Once you've lost someone and you've lost multiple people, the way that it happened with your mother, you got to start grieving, you got to say goodbye. Those are gifts. Again, people don't realize, like, even though it may not feel like it in that moment, when you have something to compare it to, like a tragic loss that's in a young person, it does alter.
It does change the way you look at life.
And the way you grieve it.
Yeah. And, my mother, she would say to me, now you've got to go to work. You've got to keep your job because once I'm gone, you still have to make a living. And I just thought that was I thought, only my mother would say that to me. And even when I knew that she was fixing to pass, my dad made me go to work that morning. And I kept trying to tell him she doesn't have much longer. I don't even know how I knew, but I knew. And he said, now, honey, now you need to go to work. He said, I'm going to go get my coffee and I'm going to sit with Mom. Everything's going to be okay. Like a robot, I got up, I went to work, and before I got to work, she passed. Dad went and sat down beside her and held her hand, and she squeezed his hand, and she was gone.
Do you think she waited for you to leave?
Oh, I know she did.
I've seen that. Oh, you're going to make me... No, don't... Listen, here, we don't say we're sorry, we say we're sexy, so you're going to say, I'm not sorry, I'm sexy. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, that too.
Yes. There's nothing wrong with crying. The whole point of this is you're allowed to cry. You're allowed to feel all the fucking emotions, and it's real life. That's what I mean, though. That's a perfect example of grief is never gone. you still feel those things when you think about them.
It's been so long ago.
But it's still there because she was your mother. Like, I haven't lost a parent yet. I always wonder what that is going to feel like because that is the person that created me. Those are the people that I've known my entire life. They're the people that molded who I am. Whether there was good, bad, hard,
They're
whatever.
your memory.
I think about that. Yeah. So, but I'm so grateful she had you to be there for her as well. And reason I asked that was because I've seen that in my experience in the medical field, in my experience with other people that I love. They wait. They hold on, especially for like sometimes for people to come, but they also wait for people to leave so they can just go. And you don't even know they're aware.
I know she waited for my dad.
Yeah.
I know she did. And Mother had a sense of humor too. I mean, it wasn't all sadness the 8 weeks that she lived. I mean, she would come out with some really funny stuff. I had this girl come in and sit with her so my dad could get a nap, and she got in her head that this woman was trying to steal, this is funny, her washing machine because the lady, hers had broke and she was on the phone talking, and my mother just got that in her head, and then she thought that she was trying to take her washing machine and steal my dad at the same time.
Oh, she wanted her man and her washing machine. What a hussy.
We had to fire that woman, and I kept telling my dad, I am not going to do it. Mother's being ridiculous, and Dad goes, if that's what your mother wants, and if she really thinks that she's trying to steal me away, then we just need to get rid of her. That was the hardest and most embarrassing conversation I've ever had.
Wait, I'm sorry, time out, rewind. She was working for them? What was she doing?
She was sitting with Mother.
Oh, so she was like a caregiver.
A caregiver, so my dad could have a nap.
Oh my God. And so you had to say, hey, my mom who's actually hallucinating.
Yes. It was embarrassing.
Hey, you know what? I give your dad a fuck ton of credit. That's a real man right there. Like, hey, your mom said she's a hussy. She's got to fucking go. She's
harlot.
She's
going to steal it. I said, Mother, you are acting ridiculous. She says, well, I don't care what you think. She's not getting my husband. Oh, Lord.
Well, sorry to that caregiver if she's out there listening.
I know. But she did other funny things, too. I mean, she was holding my hand one evening, and I have freckles. She was patting my hand, and I was thinking, oh, this is so sweet, I was really touched. And then she goes, honey. I said, yes, Mother. She goes, you know those freckles that you have? And I said, yes, ma'am. She says, well, you're getting older, so they're going to think they're age spots. Wow. I said, Mom. I said, why would you say something like that? She said, I'm just preparing you.
I just want you to know.
I just want you to know.
I want you to know that you have that disease now. Whatever that was, you are that person. You say the most random shit. And you're like, I didn't mean anything, but I wasn't trying to hurt your feelings. And I also want to throw this side note. I really love how you say "warsh."
I know it. I always say, I know. The minute it came out of my mouth, I was waiting for her to say something.
That washing machine.
That washing machine.
That washing machine. Husband stealing hussy. Well,
oh my God.
I hope she's doing well, the hussy.
She did some funny things, and it lightened the mood. And I remember after my mother died, and when I say my dad, it was my stepdad, but he raised me. And
shout out, just want to give a shout out to the stepdads that are real dads, like my husband, Drew. Yes. Thanks, baby boy. There are some, if all of you, side note, that are in a shitty relationship, go ahead and leave, because I promise you there are perfect examples. Auntie's dad, my husband, and many other men that are really amazing.
They'll step up to the
stepdads that are really dads.
Yeah.
They're fathers. So,
and they don't have it easy.
No,
because we're not easy.
No, my kids are not always nice to their stepdad. But
I wasn't in the beginning either. But I'd already been through 2 other ones, so you know that's a whole nother.
Third time's
story.
a charm, though.
Fourth. Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Your mom must have been a hottie, like you.
My mother was quite attractive. But anyways, I remember at the funeral, I thought, what's life going to be like now? I mean, is he still going to be my dad? I didn't know what to expect. And then I heard him talking to some people, and I heard him say, if it hadn't have been for Sharon, we couldn't have gotten through this. So I would never forsake her. Without her, we could not have gotten through this. And in that instant, I knew that everything was going to be okay between us.
So losing your mom made y'all close. Like it like literally like
Oh my
cemented that
God,
relationship.
yes.
Aw.
So for a year after my mother passed, I had to do something to get a routine going. And so every Friday we would go out to eat. I just kept doing it. And yeah.
I think that's a really beautiful thing too that came out of that.
Yes.
Because I think that's the point, is that I'm really trying to get to people. Like, I've had some really hard shit, obviously, in my 39 years. You've had some really hard shit in your 78. But finding the light in the darkness, it's a choice. You can choose to do that. You can choose to dwell on the hard, or you can choose to find the light in the darkness. And it sounds like that first experience had a lot of light come out of it. So my first grieving experience, I was about 28 years old. I had lost great-grandparents, but I wasn't extremely close. Obviously, I cried, I was sad, went to the funeral. But this one was extremely difficult for a multitude of reasons. I was, at the time, living in my cousin's house, and his wife, Amanda, had become one of my best friends. She was my best friend, actually. She threw my baby shower. I was there with my 2-year-old. My ex was living in Oklahoma. We were married at the time. And we needed extra money. We could never keep money, but that's another story. So I would come down and work at the bar that I used to work at, because I never burned a bridge there. So I'd go work weekends there, or weekdays there, a couple times a week, and make decent amount. So she'd let me stay in their guest room. Now, she had a child that was the same age as mine. They were both 2 years old. Her son was very premature. So premature. Both of her kids were. She had an older son also that was 5 at the time, I think. Basically, he was so premature that my 2-year-old is doing normal 2-year-old things, and her baby hadn't even went through any sort of development, as far as like not even a startle reflex. He was essentially a newborn being fed every 3 to 4 hours still. She was doing that for over 2 years once he got out of the NICU, which was months and months. She also had a massive wound from her C-section, because they had to take him very early, because the chances of him surviving were so minimal. Her wound wasn't healing. Around this time, it was right next to her birthday. It was in July. And we were having, at our Coyote Ugly, we would always have a massive ass anniversary party. And I was like, well, this year for your birthday, it's like around the same time. Let's go do that. Let's go out. You know, you haven't had a night out in forever, because she's been home with this baby. And she was like, all right, I need it. She was just that was like a rough season for her, a very rough season that year. And you remember, you were there through all of this with me. But my ex came down to visit during that time, right after the anniversary party. And she was having like epigastric pain, like a lot of stomach pain. She was in it. I think she was 36. And so she was just having a lot of stomach issues. We were actually supposed to go camping, and then we canceled because she kept getting sick. And I'm like, I don't want something to happen in the middle of where we're at and you not be able to get help. So this is like 2 weeks, and it had been going on for a long time, but like those last 2 weeks were what was happening. So my ex comes to visit. He surprises me. We go to stay at with my parents at one of their friends' houses to spend a little time. It's 4 a.m. My phone is like going off, and it was weird. And I was actually having epigastric pain at the same time too. And I'm like, am I having sympathy pain? But I ended up answering the phone because it had rang and rang and rang. And it was one of my aunts who doesn't call me very often. I answered it and I said, hello. And she goes, where's your dad? And I'm like, what's going on? Why? Like, what do you mean? Why do you need my dad? And she's like, I need to talk to you. And at the time, one of my grandmothers was actually sick. She had lung cancer as well. So I'm assuming she's calling about that, but I'm fucking half asleep. And then she's like, I need to talk to your dad. And I'm like, tell me what's going on. And she goes, it's Amanda. She died. Just like, she said she died. And the sound that came out of me was like animalistic. It was like this crazy, I don't even remember what I could do. Like, I just screamed, and then I ran upstairs. I woke the whole house up. I woke my parents' friends up. I woke everyone up. I just kept saying, she's dead. Amanda's dead. Like, I kept saying it over and over and over. And the feeling that I felt was like being ripped apart. Like, I can't explain it. And the next hours, just like, I looked at my phone. I realized her husband, my cousin, had called me. He was like talking about what happened. He just said she like threw up, and then she just fell onto the ground, and like the ambulance came, and he's like, I don't think she made it. Like, he left me a message, which was just like insane. And so waiting to know what happened, waiting to hear. I don't think my life has ever been that slow motion. At that point, had never been that slow motion. The grief was so heavy. I didn't know how to speak to people. I didn't even know how I was going to get through minute to minute. That's how heavy that felt. And obviously that's a completely different scenario where a young person who has 2 small children, one who's special needs and needs a lot and hasn't even like, won't even remember her, is like gone. That fucked me up really bad. And you knew her. She was a beautiful person. She loved animals more than she liked people, but she also loved people. But she also was very lonely at times. Like a lot of friends and stuff kind of fell off. She had a couple and I was one of them. But like I lived with her. I heard her. I was there to listen to her. She was there to listen to me. So a lot of the friends that like never came around, you know, suddenly are coming around and saying they were best friends and they were grieving. And that's hard for me. That was really hard for me. I'll be honest. Now looking back, because I've known people like her again, like people that just touch everyone, they probably did feel like she was their best friend because she made everyone feel like that. And that's a blessing too, to be able to give people that. But it was hard for me at the time, knowing that she was very like alone in a lot of situations, just wanting to have friends and wanting to have people around. And I'm sure that they have their grief looks different because they weren't around all the time. But I will say her and I had a beautiful relationship. And so for me, losing her was hard, but I had nothing left to give her. I gave her the best friendship, the best love, and she gave me the same thing. Yeah. And so it was really weird walking, like the next several days we were at my cousin's house and I kept walking in thinking I was going to see her. And that didn't go away for probably a year. Like it took that long for me to get to that point. And so like we're sitting there in this heavy moment one day. This is where the dark humor comes in. Mm. And my sister was there with me and she was like trying to step over a baby gate or something and just being like, she was just getting all winded and shit. And my ex was there and he was like, Jesus, Maddie, don't have a heart attack. And
that's awful.
Amanda had a heart attack. That's what happened. So it was just like a fucking pin drop. And then we all couldn't help but like laugh. There was nothing else we could do. So the funeral happened and it was within like, it wasn't too long. You remember it wasn't too long.
No, because we had to wait for her parents to come from
her
Australia.
Parents were overseas. And I'm going to go ahead and give a little plot twist now. This was actually your daughter-in-law.
Yes.
And so you knew her longer than I did. And your son was married to her.
You're right.
So you were experiencing almost similar to like losing a child, to a point, because you and her were very, very close.
Yes.
And so for me, when we went, I think one of the moments where like the heaviness almost like destroyed me, like you're talking about, where it was visceral. I was still having stomach pain. I was having all these issues. We had to go back to Oklahoma because that's where we lived. But I was like, I'm going to wait and be here until her funeral. I ended up having to go to the ER one day and turned out I was having gallbladder issues and I needed to get it removed ASAP. Right. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not leaving until, again, I say this all the time. Don't follow me as far as like health. Go to the doctor, even if shit's happening, like you should get that checked out. I was fine. Everything was fine with that. But I put off surgery and just lived like that because I wanted to make sure I went to her funeral. So we went to the viewing and I'm walking down to see her at the viewing. And that's when it really like, I didn't think it could get any heavier. And then like you said, you felt like I felt like my feet had concrete around them and I couldn't take another step. My legs turned to jello. I thought I was going to collapse. And I've never felt like that short of having like, doing something very physically demanding. I emotionally was like, I can't walk. Like I'm leaning on my ex and my dad stops me midway up and he's like, I just want to like prepare you. She doesn't look like herself. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
That was the understatement.
What does that mean? And so then I'm curious, but also scared. And I walk up to her and I don't know if this was my imagination, but I want to say it's her because I do believe that like the people that you love says things to you or give you signs. I heard her fucking voice clear as day go, bitch, how could you let them make me look like that? And I was like, I look at her. She looked like a Russian babushka. Like she's all covered up. She's got her hair kind of disheveled. Her makeup. This woman, when she went out places, she wanted her makeup like on point.
She was beautiful.
Yes. And she was like me. I like wearing a full face of makeup. Yeah. Her hair always looked good. When she went out places, and this is the last time we're going to see her, she would not have had that. And so I actually start giggling while I'm viewing her. But I'm so fucking grateful for that moment, because I feel like had she looked herself, it probably would have made me break into a million pieces. And so like, even that moment where I saw that, I was like, okay, and I just start cracking up, and I'm like, she looks like a Russian babushka. I say that out loud, and I'm like, oh my God, people are going to see me. And then I can't stop giggling because I know it's inappropriate, but I just keep like,
That's just a nervous reaction.
yes. And you have the same thing.
Because I did too. I thought she looked like Stevie Nicks.
I mean,
with all the garb on.
Which wasn't her. It just wasn't her.
It wasn't her at all.
But I also understand, like, you know, looking back, she had to have like an autopsy because of her age. And so like her chest and all that needed to be completely covered up to her neck. She wore her ladies out. Like she'd wear her big chi-chis out and about.
And she had beautiful tattoos.
She did. And so it was just strange. And then I remember you and I going to the funeral, and it was a Catholic funeral because her family was Catholic. We had the priest up there. And so if you've never been to a Catholic funeral, they usually have a priest talk about the person, but they don't know her. They're preaching, right? They're doing that as well at the same time, which is fine. It just, I had never been to one. Like you and I are sitting next to each other, holding each other's hands. And I felt like you and I's grief was equal.
Intermingled.
Yes. Intermingled and equal. Like we both loved her more than words. So I felt like you gave me that sense of like relief that I needed. You were my emotional support auntie at that moment. So I was like holding your hand, and when the priest was talking, he's like, I don't know what her favorite music was, and we both were like the 80s, and I don't know what her favorite color was, and you were like purple. It was so sad.
We should have been up there.
We should have been talking.
We should have been talking.
I know we should have, but you know, I also understand like and respect that people want to do it. That is for, I realized that was for the families, like the viewing. And even that part was for her family. That was a formal thing for her family that were Catholic in their beliefs. Right. And so that whole process, it was a shock. But I think that this goes to show what kind of person that you are, because in the midst of all of this, with these 2 grandbabies, uproot your fucking life. You sell your house. You lived over an hour away. You sell your house very quickly, and you move within blocks away from your son and your 2 grandchildren. And you have literally caregived for them since then up until this last several months.
Again, that was my husband, a stepfather and a step-grandfather. After everything kind of settled down, I just looked at him one day and I said, you know, I think Leslie's going to need some help. And he said, put the place up for sale. And we'd already been there for 11 years. It was his dream place. It was 5 acres, and we'd done a lot. And within 24 hours, that house sold.
Which is so crazy.
Which is
that's
so,
like unheard of.
Because we were told it would be 6 to 9 months. And I said, well, if it's going to take that long, then God will work everything out. I said, I'm just going to leave it in God's hands. By that morning at 10 o'clock, I'll never forget it because I looked at the clock. I got a call from the realtor, and we already had someone that wanted to buy the place for twice what we paid. And so,
Amanda was like I said, she was a great mother as well. But she also was like a helicopter mom. And I'm allowed to say that. Like, I know when people die, a lot of people put people on a pedestal. I can't do that because they're human, and so am I. I loved that about her. I loved that she was not perfect. Nobody is.
I always thought of Amanda. She was a perfect mess.
She was. I am too.
Yeah.
That's why we were great.
Well, I am too. I mean, I can do 9 things at one time, and it doesn't look like I'm doing anything, but I am.
Right. And so she was definitely a helicopter mom.
Yeah,
and I because of what she went through with her youngest baby, she was very scared to let him do anything really. And so I would watch, because I was at the house, the physical therapist come, and she would step in a lot. And so once Amanda passed, it was probably the first few weeks, he started to make leaps and bounds.
Yes.
But I also think
it was amazing.
I don't think that she didn't have a hand to play in that in some way. Like, I think she was watching over her son. And so what's crazy is this kid was never supposed to walk, never supposed to be able to potentially talk. Like, there all of these things. And this kid is now 12 years old, the same age as my daughter. And he is the most positive outlook. He has her positive outlook, sweet, loving, compassionate, wouldn't hurt a fly. But he's also so funny because he just says exactly what he thinks. He's chugging along and doing,
Yeah.
he's a fucking miracle is what he is.
He
and
really
he
is.
has the perfect guardian angel watching over him. And she would be so proud of him. And so whenever I was grieving, I remember feeling angry for a long time. So that was my first like grieving process, and I didn't handle it well at all. Or I thought I didn't, right? Because I'm fucking angry and I'm coping in the wrong way. I would have a drink, but then I'd be like sobbing and upset. And I realized there's something wrong. So I actually started to go to counseling because I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, what? And being in a relationship that isn't necessarily supportive doesn't help that, because you can't grieve really. I was still being a mother. I was still working, like you said. I had to go back to quote regular life, and then you're in a relationship that's not great. And so I didn't have much support, and I felt it just completely consuming my life. So I went to counseling, and the crazy part is I acknowledge all of this. I'm like, I'm angry. I feel these things. I'm sad. I cry, blah, 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 blah. And the counselor's like, this is all part of the grieving process, right? Like, you're going to be in denial at first, which I was like, you not very long, but like for a short period of time, I'm in denial. Then you're angry. And then that's at the end, it's quote acceptance. And the end doesn't mean you don't grieve anymore. I think you just learn to accept that they're gone and that you have to live without them no matter what.
Yeah.
Life's going to keep going. Tomorrow's going to fucking come, and there's nothing you can do about it. And here's one thing I'm not going to do. As much as she loved life, I'm not going to fucking stop living. I'm going to live in honor of her. And I wouldn't let her kids see me super sad.
In the beginning, I felt so guilty because I had the pleasure of being with her boys that were my grandchildren, of course, But I felt guilty because I felt like I'm getting to do what she should be doing. She could do it better. And I finally just had to let that go. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm a grandmother. I'm not a mother.
Yeah, but
I'm a grandmother.
I feel like you did, and
So-
I don't care what anybody says. I watched it because I've been here. You were their mother figure, specifically the youngest, because he doesn't have any memories of her. You still did all the things a mother does. You would go to his school. You make him, he's with you all the time. You'd make him food every day. He'd stay the night at your house. Both of them would. I feel like you ended up, which in a way it's kind of sucks because it robbed you a little bit of being a grandparent, but it's also really beautiful that someone like you is in their lives and willing to step up, and they got to see what a mom looks like. Even if they didn't have their mother, you were never going to be Amanda, but you didn't need to be. You were you.
No, and I think for me too, it got me through a lot of stuff. I'm still young at heart. We would go to Slitterbahn. We'd go to the movies. I'd go to D-Pad, all the things that they like doing that I really still like doing. So I felt like they kept me young.
Yeah. So this is actually, it's been 10 years now since she's died.
Yes. Mm.
And obviously it's still raw. It still feels, again, when I'm talking about it and visiting that memory, some people call it remembering. I like to say when I visit my memories because that's bougier. But when I'm visiting those memories, I feel like I can feel that heaviness again and that sadness.
You get it. You feel that same pain,
But-
or joy.
Yeah.
It's not all pain.
That thinking of her now, like you said, that changed my life. So I had done all my prereqs for nursing. I was kind of fucking around in life, just like getting in my own way. As soon as that happened, I was like, I can't put school off anymore. I had been 7 years since I had went to school. I was, again, like 27, 28, I can't remember exactly. That year, actually, all of my credits that I'd worked so hard on were going to expire. I was like, fuck this, I'm not letting it expire. So I ended up going ahead and getting back into school, and I finished nursing school. I actually got pregnant, and that's like its own episode of surviving nursing school. It was insane, but I pushed myself. I'm not going to have regrets in life. I had already kind of had that like view of life, but sometimes when shit gets heavy and hard, and when you're in relationships that aren't right for you, when you're doing all the things in life that aren't meant for you, life feels really hard. And when you start to do the things you're supposed to be doing, it doesn't mean it's not hard, but you feel different. Your energy is different. And it refocused me, and it pushed me to do the thing that I was meant to do at that time, and was ultimately going to be the freedom that I needed in order to be a single mom. I would fucking talk to her whenever I took my nursing exams. I'd be like, hey, Amanda, I know you're up there, girl. I wouldn't even pray. I wasn't praying to her. I was like, put in a good word to God, let him know like I need a little help. I would genuinely do that. And then I had my baby, and I still think that. I'm like, man, this kid, she would love this kid. She would love my boys. She would love my husband now. She would be
Oh my God.
obsessed with him. She would be obsessed.
Because I am.
Yes. You made him your fried chicken wings.
Oh my God, I love him.
Yeah, he's amazing. So
He is amazing.
He gets on my fucking nerves like every husband does, but in the best way. And
Yeah, he's amazing.
this isn't about him, okay? Shit, it's about grief. I think those are two completely contrasting grieving experiences, right?
Right?
And I want this to be like a teaching moment, educational. The reason she was having epigastric pain is because that is actually, those are common indicators for women having heart attacks. It's not your arm hurting. It's not your chest pain. It's epigastric. So we're talking about stomach issues and upper stomach, typically where your gallbladder is, and also like shoulder pain and things like that.
Yes.
And healing issues. She did not heal. It was forever. She had an open wound because it also affects your circulation. So,
Well, she had that disease, and I can't remember what it is. After she passed, her biological sister, because Amanda was adopted, found her obituary and contacted my son. And her father died around the same age with this disease that affects your organs. And I've never heard of it before. Cannot remember, of course, what it is, but...
And that's crazy because
yeah.
she never knew that. So if you don't know your family history, or if you do,
very important.
definitely check that.
Very
and
important.
if you're a woman having epigastric pain, even in your 30s, do not ignore it. Do not fucking ignore it. And like you said about your mother, I feel like she prepared me for the next hard thing. I hadn't been diagnosed as an adult yet. I hadn't gone through my divorce. I hadn't lost more people that I loved. One of the biggest ones I've talked about so many times was Jen, but she had such a massive impact in my life. There's something so different about having someone die of the same disease that you're diagnosed with. And so for me, I will definitely touch on that. But I think that in itself is its own episode of like losing someone to breast cancer, and that's so young. So I will talk about her. But for now, I really wanted to just focus on the people that we knew together. And so I think that the next person that you took care of was your dad.
My dad.
Your stepdad, Dad.
My God. My dad lived, I was in my early 70s before he passed. He was a kind person, and we shared all the memories of when we lived in the Philippines and all the things that we did. And he was my memories. He might forget who a grandchild was, but he never forgot those memories of, me growing up. And I remember one day we were watching an old Western on TV, and a commercial came on, and this woman had turned 70 and was having her birthday, and it made her look so old. And I looked at him and I said, why do they make 70 look so old? And I had just turned 70.
But you were looking like 50 at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Fine ass bitch.
And I said to him, he goes, I don't know. And I said, well, I'm 70. And he looked at me. And he just kept staring at me. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, no, you're not. I said, yes, I am. I said, I just turned 70. He goes, no, you didn't. I said, Dad, I did. And I realized in that instant when he looked at me, he still saw that teenage girl. He did not see a 70-year-old woman. And it just cracked me up because that really upset him. I said, well, okay, whatever you think. But in that instant, my love for him my heart just swelled.
Well, and to back it up a little bit, your dad was 91, 92?
94.
Jeez,
He was 94.
That, again, to be in your own home at 94 years old, he was essentially pretty healthy up until he basically started having dementia.
He just died of old age.
Yeah, he started winding down like a clock.
That's exactly the way I saw it. I could tell, he stopped wanting to eat, but he'd drink Ensure, and my brother would stay all night with him, and then I'd stay during the day.
Since you had experienced, like your mother, obviously, and Amanda, did you feel more comfort that he had lived a full life, a full happy life? And this is my perspective, because I've seen people now at that point, tragic, but then people in their 80s and 90s, which I know you're pushing 80. And I'm going to be honest, once you die, hopefully at 110, I'm going to fucking lose my shit because you are like a piece of me. You're a part of my heart. I don't even want to talk about it because then I'm going to cry. Stop it. You can't start. I said don't. Fuck. I love you more than cheesecake, okay?
I love you more than peanut butter.
I know. Fuck. What now? I'm crying now. You're crying now. We're all gonna
No,
cry.
we're all gonna cry.
We're all gonna cry. What was that? You went to like a Russian?
I don't know.
Anyway, we digress. They got to make it to 94 years old. You were able to keep him in his home until he died.
And believe me, we had a stepsister in between all that. So
Oh, that's fun.
it wasn't always easy because she would accuse me of starving my father to death. I can't believe you're that kind of a person. But again, I just gave it to God. I just let her rant and rave or whatever she thought. And she tried to talk my dad into coming home with her. And he finally told her one day, he says, I don't want to come home with you. I love my home. I want to stay home.
So you can come here or
And,
bye.
Of course, we would have had a fight over that. I just let her get away with stuff because I didn't want Dad to be put in between. Her and I would have fought. That would not have happened.
Like throwing fisticuffs?
We would have thrown, because I felt like I knew my dad better than what she did. Even though it was her biological dad, I'm the one that's been with him all these years. I mean, I knew who he was as a person. I knew what he wanted. I never invaded his space. I didn't go looking in drawers. Because, when people get older, they don't want you messing in their stuff. I spent years cleaning a house and leaving everything just the way my mother had it. Because he didn't want anything moved. And so, you know what? That's what I did.
But I think that's also giving them autonomy and respect. When people are aging, there's the beauty in it. Like, wow, I've got to live a long life, but like their bodies start to give out, their minds start to give out. Yeah. Sometimes their family has to step in for safety and say like, you can't drive anymore. Or that's what happened with my grandmother. Like she fucking wrecked her car and they're like, we can't get her another one because she's like dangerous on the road.
Well, my dad actually gave his keys up because he ran a red light.
Oh, I love that.
And it
but
scared
But he
him.
was such a moral, I feel like your dad was such a like moral rule following type
he
of fella.
was.
Yeah, I love that.
My dad, World War II, was prisoner of war.
Wow.
That's a whole nother story.
Oh, we got
I won't get
we
into
got
that,
episodes
but
and
yeah.
episodes for that. Well, and that's what I mean though. It's like you respected him and you treated him, even if you have to take things or do things, you allowed him to be himself in his own home, which that's such a respectful thing to do and very difficult for a lot of people. I know a lot of people that don't have that outcome, especially in early onset dementia. It becomes dangerous. They leave the house. They don't have anybody to sit and take care of them 24 hours, or they become aggressive or all of that. Your dad, number one, didn't do those things.
No, he didn't.
But also keeping them in their home when it's possible I've watched that when people go into nursing homes and stuff. It actually keeps them somewhat attached to the little bit of memory.
I absolutely agree. In fact, right at the last, I would call him every night at 9:00. I called him this one night, and he talked to me like normal, and I said, well, I'll see you in the morning, Dad. He said, okay, honey. So he gets off the phone, and my brother calls me, and he goes, Dad wanted to know, who was I talking to? And I realized,
He's like, who's this bitch?
I realized that our phone calls at 9:00 really weren't real smart, because even though he spoke to me like he knew who I was, he really didn't.
He was like, you know what he said? He was like, you remember that hussy that was trying to steal our washing machine and
Yeah,
me?
really.
That must be her.
That must be her. But that was funny. That kind of lightened the mood. I thought, well, maybe I need to stop calling him at 9:00. And it wasn't much after that. I think it was like a 2-week period. I called my stepsister and I said, I think you need to come.
And she lived in like another state, right?
Yeah, no, not another state.
Oh, but several hours away. Gotcha.
I said, I think it's time that you came and stayed with us with Dad. I said, I think it's getting close. And he was just like a clock unwinding. My stepsister kept telling him all that day, Dad, if you need to go, go. And it was just exhausting. I kept thinking, stop saying that. I mean, you already said it, because he was kind of out of it. So finally she left the room, and my brother had left the room. And I just leaned over and I said, Dad, I know you've heard this all day, but I'm going to be okay. I said, if you need to go, go. In that moment, I really felt like he was waiting for me to tell him to go. Mm-hmm. And when I did, he just took one hard breath and he was gone. And it was very peaceful,
I feel like if I was to go at an old age, which I honestly don't think I'm going to live to 90 years old. Thanks, cancer.
I don't either.
But If I could choose, I would choose to do it. I would love the
Yeah,
way
it
he
was
went was so
perfect.
beautiful.
It was beautiful.
I think it's just in your nature to be a caregiver, and you are really good at putting your emotions aside and really being there for people. You know, we won't have a time in this episode. It's crazy because the more you live, the more people you lose, right? Like,
Yes, it is.
It's a blessing and a curse.
But I will tell you this, and I didn't with my mother. Right before he did go, I mean, I sobbed like a baby, which I'm so shocked because I usually am more contained than that. But for some reason, when I let loose, I thought I was never going to stop crying.
Yeah, well, that's your generation again. In this woke world now, you're allowed to fucking cry as long as you need to. I cry all the time. I cry in the shower. I love crying in the shower in the car. But I do think about people looking in the window while I'm fucking sobbing in the car. But it's a good place. I'm like, crank up the music. I'm just like, it's fine.
Hey, the shower is a good.
Shower's fantastic.
I remember many times when I was married before that I would go in the shower and cry.
Yeah.
And I had to have a release.
Yeah, that's the only, when you have kids, it's the only fucking place you can be alone.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if you're lucky. But
It's the only private time.
Yeah, I even shit with a kid in the room currently. So, like, it's nice to be able to wash your body and just let a fucking hard cry out. If you haven't done it today, go take your shower and have a hard cry about whatever. It's fine. We're here at Plot Twist, Still Alive. We believe in that. We've kind of covered a couple different types of grief. And like I said, since then, you've also taken care of cousins. You've taken care of sister-in-laws.
You know, everybody thinks because you are a good caregiver that you're like a martyr or something. But every person I've ever taken care of, I've received such a blessing. And my sister-in-law was really the biggest blessing because she was totally different. She was kind and warm and loving and would kiss on me. And I would think to myself, who is this person?
Well, because y'all's relationship was not like that.
No, it was never like that. When she asked me to take care of her, for an instant, I was like, I don't know. And I'm going to tell you something. God had to change her. She got saved when she was out at BAMC. She got saved, and she became a totally different person.
I feel like death does that. Dying does that.
Yeah.
Again, dying.
They gave her a month to 6 months, and she grabbed my hand and she said, you have got to take care of me.
She had, was it metastatic breast cancer essentially, right?
She did, and it just went all over her body.
Right. But by the time they caught it,
it was too late.
And she was in her 70s as well?
We were the same age. We're 6 months apart.
And that has to be weird for you.
Very weird because she died at 77, which it's only been a year. It hadn't been that long. But that was such a blessing, all the hours I spent with her. Because my brother, he's in a wheelchair. So I had to be his legs and make decisions that ordinarily he would make. And she was still very sound of mind. Now, y'all going to think I'm exaggerating, and I've never said this about anybody else. But when I would walk in that room, it looked like she had a light shining on her. She had beautiful white hair, but she radiated. I mean, just this light. I don't know who she was. I really don't. But I had the pleasure of knowing a completely different person that was warm and loving. And she would tell me, you know, I love you more than your brother. And I said, no, you don't. She'd go, yes, I do.
You do know that, like, most people can't do that. That is a I don't even want to say a skill because it's not learned. It's just ingrained in who you are. Caring for people and watching them go. It's very selfless, and I don't think that you're a martyr for it, nor do I think I'm a martyr for the people that I've stepped up for. But I do think that it takes a special kind of strength, and it doesn't mean that other people aren't strong in different ways. That's just a strength of yours. You are able to do that, and you're never really asked. You just step up. Like you've never been asked to do it for the most part. You've just done it. And that's one of the things I admire most about you. I want you to know, and I'm saying it on fucking record right now, that if and when you ever need a caregiver, Drew and I are your guys, okay? We got you. You got all these fucking lamps.
Oh, well, your husband already told me that.
Oh, I know. And if he says it, you know it's true. Yeah. We live a few miles away. Yeah. Somebody's got to come and give these lamps out evenly, all 27 fucking accent lamps.
I have 19.
Oh my.
I have 19 accent
Talking
lamps.
about lighting up a room.
And I love each and every one because I don't like to be in a dark house. I don't like to be in the dark. I don't dangle my foot off the bed in case a vampire's laying there waiting for me. I mean, you never know about these things.
Says the woman who fucking got me hooked to horror movies.
Yes.
Great. So
back to Marcy. I want to just say one last thing.
yeah, of course.
All the hours I spent with her there was 2 days of the week that I didn't go because it was her bath day and it would exhaust her. For some reason, that Thursday, something made me turn around and go back to her. And when I got there, she grabbed me by my blouse and said, "I'm dying today." And I said, "No, you're not." She said, "Yes, I am. And you've got to help me." I remember thinking, oh my God. Long story short, I got my brother and we spent the night. And for some reason that morning, I said, I'm going to go home and take a shower and then I'm going to come back. It was just like the nurse had been telling me that if I would leave, she would pass. And I said, no, I'm not leaving her. But for some reason that morning, I had to leave. I could have no more made myself stay there than if you'd have given me $1 million. And the minute I left, she passed.
Wow.
So again, I think she waited for me to be gone.
That's so crazy how all of it's different.
It's all different.
And it depends on the person.
Yeah.
And your connection with them, I think. Mm-hmm. You were probably the highlight of her life at that moment, right?
Yeah. Because I promised her, I said, we came in this place together, we're going to leave it together.
Well, I think that is really fucking cool that you got to sort of mend or make amends with somebody essentially that maybe wasn't always a perfect relationship. None are.
No.
But I know that you guys struggled up and down as people do. And I again, what a cool way to tie a beautiful bow on her life and on your relationship.
I never would have thought I would be the one.
Right. But you did. I have lost other people that are very important to me. My grandmother was hard. I was in the middle of fucking chemo. I just went through the really bad divorce. I was a single mom. My life was a fucking horror movie, right? And so whenever it happened with her, it was very quick. She had a heart attack. But the crazy part with my grandma, she was always up and down. 10 years before, I thought she was going to die because she had a bypass on her heart. That woman would hide fucking ice cream. Is that what you're going to say? My dad, she would.
I was going to say that's what I think about when I think of her. I think about
hiding
my
ice
nephew,
cream.
Johnny. I can't believe she's hiding ice cream.
Yeah. And so this woman, I don't know what it was. She didn't like boys as much as girls. It was fucking strange. Again, I'm not going to put my grandma on a pedestal. And there's another episode we'll have to do, but like her family dynamic, my that side had a lot of trauma young, very early on. It's not my story to tell. I'd really love to talk to my mom about it, to be honest. But I knew about it my whole life growing up. She was very Mormon, devout Mormon. I would give her so much shit. This is the same relationship I have with you was with my grandma. Mm-hmm. And I would give her shit because she was devout Mormon and she would, say something to me and I was like, oh, well, your Mormon God wouldn't like that. And she's like, we have the same God. I was like, no. My God lets me have Coca-Cola and caffeine. And I was like, your God doesn't like that. And she's like, they're the same God, Crystal. But like, it was just funny. It was definitely, we had a very special connection. Yeah. I was always close with her. She was also, like you, my ride or die, one of my biggest cheerleaders. She was there through two of my cancer because she passed during my second battle. But I'll never forget the day that she died or basically the 24 hours. So she was at that time in a assisted living facility. I couldn't keep her at my house because it wasn't safe for her. And my grandma was very stubborn, very fucking stubborn and mean sometimes. But I just cracked up and laughed at it. And she would just threaten to punch kids in the face and stuff like that, kind of like old people mean. She actually...
I don't do that.
No, not yet.
I would not do that.
Not yet. You're young at heart. So she was just
how old was she when she
was
passed?
Spicy. I want to say 84, but it could be 82. I need to ask mom. Early to mid 80s.
Well, if I get like that, use masking tape. I do say inappropriate things.
I had to almost ban her from my kid's birthday because actually she was talking to Amanda's oldest son. And
that's right.
You were there.
I was there.
She was like, he was chewing on a balloon. And she's like, stop doing that, you freaking idiot. You're a moron. And I was like, you cannot say that. She goes, what? He's a jerk. And I'm like, Grandma. Well, then I found out that this bitch was taking her Tramadol. She would get Tramadol because she had severe pain. She had broken her hips. She had broken parts of different times, different things. She was taking the new prescriptions, pouring it in the old prescription bottles. Then she'd end up taking like Aleve and pain meds and Tylenol all, and she'd have like GI bleeds going to the hospital. She did that 3 or 4 times, like almost bled to death.
Don't worry, I can't even take an aspirin that'll knock me out.
Yes. So long story short, though, this is my grandma, but I fucking loved her with everything, right? So I didn't. Same with her though. I thought that her life was a gift. I realized that, and so she had a heart attack. I got the call. She was in the ICU. I drove over there. I had just like done chemo that day, and it was like 3 weeks in, so I was fucking kicked. My ass was kicked. I felt miserable, and I was bald, so I had worn a wig there with the bald cap over it. But when I got there, I'm hot, I'm itchy, I'm in, you just everything aches. And I walked in, I was like, Grandma, I'm sorry, I have to take this wig off. So I took the wig off, which is funny because she wore wigs and she would cut her own hair. And then like when she'd fuck it up, she'd wear a wig, but she'd buy a wig that looked just like her weird short red hair. Anyway, so she's like, you can take your wig off. It's fine. So I took my wig off. My mom was there, and my grandma was like, wow, I really like your haircut. Thanks. It's chemo. But she was, again, we just had that relationship, and my grandma was so scared to die. She never had like a DNR or anything. She kept saying her chest hurt, but they'd given her meds. So I thought that was strange. And I was a pretty new nurse, and I was like, that's weird. And she started telling my mom where all of her paperwork was, and for her funeral stuff, and like her insurance payments and all this stuff. And I was like, this is strange. And I wanted to stay, but I couldn't stay because I was so sick. I had to go home. Like everything hurt. I needed to go home. So I told her I loved her, and she said, I love you too. She was so calm, and she's like, no, I love you. And just let your mom, like remind your mom where these things are. And it was so weird, but I left. And the next morning, same fucking thing. My phone rings. Now I have almost like, I don't want to say PTSD, but somewhat, because every time someone's died in my life that I love, it's usually very fucking early in the morning. I got a call. I ignored it because, again, I'm fucking chemo sleeping at that point. And it rings again, and it's one of my aunts. And she's like, Crystal, your parents are trying to get in touch with you. You need to call them. Your grandma just had a massive heart attack this morning. So I call. I'm like, what's up? My mom's on the phone with my sister, who's there at the hospital, and my cousin is there with her. None of them are medically inclined. I obviously am. I've run codes. I've done things like that. She's like, they're running a code on her. They're intubating her. My mom is on phone with both of us. Like, I think my dad was on the phone with one and the other. And I was like, stop. Tell them to stop. Unless like you're a very young, fit person and something happens, like, your heart stops because you got hit by lightning or something. Somebody her age, going through a code where somebody's compressing your chest, breaking your ribs and all of that, and then intubating her when she's already having a massive heart attack, she might come back. They can get her back. But realistically, she has like a 9% survival rate. And most of the time the families have to decide then to remove care and take her off of life support, which is so much worse. And I knew that it would be painful. It would be very hard for everyone. And I just said, tell them to stop the code. Tell them to stop the code. My poor sister's there watching her get intubated and all of this, which is horrific to watch.
Oh, it's the worst.
Yes.
I had to do that with my cousin.
Yeah. It's
And
so hard.
It's like you're killing them twice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's horrible.
I'm glad they listened to me and trusted me, and I was able to give that knowledge to them. And so they told them to stop. When I got to the hospital, because I immediately got in the car and went over there, she still had the tube in her. They can't remove it if it's been like, she hadn't been in the hospital 24 hours. So they obviously like look into things, but she had a big occlusion in her heart, and she had a massive heart attack, and she died at 82, 84. And that one, because of where I was in life, I had a lot of perspective by then with cancer again, and with horrible divorce, and with all of these other things, losing Amanda. And I just looked at her and I thought to myself, it had to be quick for her, because she was so scared to death that had it been like your mother, she would have had all this time to get anxious and afraid. And she was an anxious person. My grandmother would pluck her own eyebrows out because she was so anxious. That's how she lived. Fast. She did. She fucking plucked all her out and she draw them back on.
I thought she just did that.
But you know what I did for grief? Like, this was so therapeutic for me. And this is going to sound so fucking weird, because I am weird and I'm fine with it. In Mormon religion, you wear garb, like this white garb when you die. And Amanda, I learned from everybody I lost, Amanda looked so fucking different from herself. I did not want people to have that experience with grandma. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I'll do her makeup. I used to do postmortem care when I was a baby nurse all the time. So I used to do that before the families would come in. I'd clean up blood, especially if it was traumatic. And then people would have to come in and that's the first time they'd see their loved one. So we'd want them to be clean. I thought if I can do this for a stranger, I could do this for her. So I went in there. She did her makeup, a very specific old lady, like a cartoon character. Like she'd draw like almost like villain M's, like for eyebrows, like the McDonald's arch with a pencil. She'd use her lipstick as blush. I did all of that. She'd always have red lipstick on her teeth. I fucking got it on her teeth on accident. I mean, she was dead, so she can't move, but like I got a little on her teeth. And I did that with 2 of my aunts that I wasn't necessarily close to and one of my cousins. But it gave us all this like beautiful thing. We got her dressed in her garb and everybody was like, it looked just like her, which was like so beautiful. The hard thing about that is watching my daughter, who was at that point like 5, 6 years old, have her fucking grieving. Yeah. I could not take the pain from her. And that was another level of heartbreak for me because though I could make sense of it, she grieved that woman so hard because she was so close to her. But I still have these, like, she used to gift us books all the time and she'd write these little inserts in them. I still have them. So they're written to my daughter and my son. She never met the baby, the feral baby, but she would have loved him too. I have all these books still and I have these memories of her. And so when I think about like funny things, and my grandma will be in a lot of other stories because she was a fucking wild little firecracker, mean as hell, but funny and kooky. And like, we have a lot of stories. I was in a place with her where I handled my grief the right way, I think. I'd learned so much about grieving. And I also thought what a gift it was for her to have it happen so fast and for her to be in her 80s, which I know is not far from where you are now. But I think you've had experiences. And so obviously there were several other people for you. And recently you've even had
my brother's youngest daughter passed away
on your birthday this year.
On my birthday.
And you, right before that, helped get her on comfort measures so that she could be comfortable. And you once again stepped up for people. And I know
that was really hard because she's only 57. That was, but she'd been sick for quite a while. I mean, and it was getting worse where she wasn't bathing. She was having trouble going to the bathroom, but she had lupus and the lupus ruined her liver. I don't think we realized how bad it was.
No, it was, I mean, when you called me about it, I didn't realize how sick she was. And I don't have like a relationship with her, but you talk about her.
Yeah.
But then you said, like you and me, say like inappropriate shit.
When I'm nervous, whether it's meeting a new doctor or a funeral, I either get the giggles or just stupid things came out of my mouth. We're at the funeral home and talking about cremation, and all of a sudden I thought, burn, baby, burn. And before I knew it, that just flopped out of my mouth.
What?
And I started laughing.
You said it in front of them, right?
Yes, I said, and the lady, she goes, in a way, this is the fun part. She said, because when people are nervous, she said, they just come out with the most inappropriate things. And my great niece is only 27. She goes, Auntie. And I said, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I said, I'm just nervous. I don't know why in the world I thought burn, baby, burn. I don't even know where that came from.
Burn, baby, burn.
I know.
Just
and then I just kept thinking, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm not going to let what just pops into my head come out
anymore.
But of course, some things did. But the burn, baby, burn was the worst.
Yeah. You know what? It's fine. I told you have the disease now, and I love it. I think it's fucking hilarious.
No telling on my deathbed what's going to come out of my mouth.
I cannot wait. I can't wait to change your shitty diapers and like be there for you. I love you.
I hope I'm not like that.
No, I hope not either. For you, not
God.
for me. If I haven't told you enough, I want you to know you are, now I'm going to cry. You are the most amazing person. You have been through, even when other people haven't been there for me, you have always been there for me. I would not have made it through my second diagnosis specifically without you driving me to chemo all the time, watching you take care of people. And it isn't martyr, but it is selfless. And I'm so proud of you. And I want you to know, I want to shout out anyone who does that, like caregivers and the grief that you deal with, the complexities of that, to put your own feelings aside, to like be there for them. You're giving them a gift, but you're also such a strong individual. And you are one of the strongest women I've ever met in my life.
I will tell you this. I cannot tell you one person that I've ever done things for that I have not been blessed.
And I'm very proud of you. And I hope you have 20 more years, but if and when you ever need one, bitch, I got you. I want to thank you for coming on. We will have other episodes to talk about because you've had some life experiences. Not being in a shitty relationship is one we can discuss. But in the meantime, I want to encourage everyone, if you're a caregiver, can you write us, find our email on our website, plottwiststillalive.com. You can find us on social media under the same name, Instagram and Facebook. Listen to previous episodes. We got Frank and Titties out. Last week we did a fuck it list. It's great. You should listen to it. It's me and my baby boy, the husband that got the chicken wings. And yeah, so I think we need to end this the right way. Let's do a high five. Still alive, and do your evil laugh.
My pretty.
What did you